Welcome back to Beautiful Work, Beautiful Life podcast. Or if you're here for the first time, welcome. We're so glad you're here. We're talking all things inner life and doing what we call the beautiful work, which is inner work. And it is all about the transformation that you can make in your outer life by transforming in your inner world. Laurel, how are you today?
I'm well on the inside and out, by the way.
Ooh, that's so
Today
good.
I'm today I'm feeling good, both.
That's great. Yeah. So, for those of you that might be new or not as familiar with us, you're talking or you're listening into and talking with two Laurels here, and we found each other on Instagram. We are Instagram friends, um, and we are happily enjoying our third season of this podcast. We are just about to wrap up our third season of this podcast, which is hard to believe, isn't it, Laurel?
It is. It really is. Time flies.
It
I
has
mean,
flown.
and to think, I remember the day that we sat down to write a list of topics,
Yeah.
and before we even started recording, and we
Yeah.
came up with 9 topics that we could talk about.
Oh,
And
9. She
I
remembers.
re
That's so cool. I love that you remember that number.
I do, and we thought we were good to go
Yeah,
with nine topics,
I
which meant
know.
9 episodes. And here we are. How many do we have?
Yeah.
Three
So
years later, we're over 150.
over 150. Yeah. Or maybe just under 150. If we say we do 48 new ones a year, although, yeah, I guess it's probably in that range. We've been
Yeah.
around 48. Yeah. So just under 150. And in our second year, we started adding in full moon and new moon meditations as well. So we have all of those too. So yeah, well over 150 if we include all our meditations.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
It's
why do
been
we?
beautiful, by the way.
Oh, it's been
Absolutely beautiful.
so beautiful. I mean, what a great experience. And I feel like for anyone who has been on the journey with us, we want to thank you, number one, for being one of our, dedicated listeners, because we know we have some really beautiful, dedicated listeners out there. We love you. We want to thank you. And for the people that are new and haven't really tuned in, there is some absolutely fantastic content in here from the coaching counseling world. Laurel and I are both seasoned coaches. I have, had worked 8 years in mental health counseling in a clinic and feel very, competent in that area. Worked in addictions and depression, anxiety, some other personality stuff, but mainly with comorbid addiction stuff. And yeah, and so we've woven together quite I think an interesting rollout of how to approach a lot of topics in the coaching world and mental health world
Yeah.
in a very
And
holistic way. Yeah.
all of the topics that we bring to this podcast are things that come up in coaching sessions with clients for me,
Absolutely.
you
Yeah.
know?
And also ones that we have addressed for ourselves in our
Oh,
own personal healing
absolutely.
journey. And I know
Yes.
that for our regular listeners, thank you for receiving us. I mean, we've talked a lot about our own struggles with different issues over the time and our own healing journey on that. And so we want to thank you for being in our circle, being at our kitchen table, as we like to
Yes.
say, with
Yeah.
us and talking it out, right? And sharing in our journey to not feeling like we suffer so much anymore. So that gets us right into our topic today, doesn't it?
It does. You're gonna tell them the topic
Yeah.
title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, okay, I'm just gonna share this part because right before we started recording, Laurel and I were talking about the title, and I said, your ever expanding comfort zone is our title today, and I said, oh, but could we do better than that? And then, what did I think I said something about suffering.
You did. And
Expand
the
your
suffering.
comfort zone or end your
Yeah.
suffering, and so Laurel said, yeah, that's a great title. Want to end your suffering? Expand your comfort zone. So I think now everybody knows what we're going to be talking about today, don't
Yeah,
they?
that comfort zone, right? And isn't
Well,
it funny, like
yeah,
the contrast between a comfort zone and suffering? Like, you know, my human mind probably doesn't see clearly the connection between my own suffering and my comfort zone. But when
yeah,
you do the inner work and you really start to bring this self-awareness,
yeah,
the things that cause me the most suffering, are
Yeah.
the things that are in that comfort zone. Maybe complacency or apathy or boredom, you
Hmm.
know,
Yep.
those things are the things that I really need to work on.
Yeah. I was kind of tuning into maybe jumping off of our last show. So our last show was uh, how to give how to give feedback without criticism. And at the end of the show, we were talking about how to receive feedback without taking it as criticism. And I feel like that might be a great entry point to our show today because I do feel like, and actually was talking about a client we're talking about the client this morning, and we were working on this topic very, indirectly, but very much it was all about what we were talking about here. We just didn't call it that. And, for her, there'd been a lot of suffering around feeling like people were trying to tell her what to do. Right. And being told what to do often feels like a form of criticism.
It does.
Embedded in that is, I don't think you can figure this out yourself. So let me just do it for you, which is
Yes.
really like, what do you, it's really an insult ultimately. Right.
Yeah. Feels very
And
powerless.
yeah, it makes you feel powerless and also makes you question yourself, like,
Yeah.
can I figure this out myself? Or I
Yeah.
should be doing what they're talking about. So, the way that we begin to work with that is by like listening in to what the person is saying and remembering it's about them and how they're experiencing whatever it is you're telling them, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so it's not necessarily about you when they respond to you, it's about them.
Right. And it is so true. So much, we offer advice, counsel, criticism, suggestions
Love that. Love that. You get your thumb in here and I get a thumbs up.
for our listeners.
Yeah. Oh,
We
yes.
we 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 record on Zoom. And lately, when we've been just speaking, we get this little emoji of a thumbs up as if someone's listening to us and they're giving us a thumbs up, even though there is no one listening in on this recording yet. So
That's right.
sorry for that little
And
interruption.
and thank you, Zoom, for adding that feature, which is not really necessary, but people like it, so that's okay.
Okay, and now I've completely forgotten what I was saying, and this is why some people script their podcast and we don't, but we're going to go right back in.
That's right.
Um, I think if I remember, I was getting into this place of when we offer others opinions
Mhm.
that may come across as criticism or warnings or whatever it might be. Let's stick with the criticism, but often it's from our own fears and insecurities and self-doubts, right?
Yeah.
We, you know, I always believe the best in people that we want to help and yeah, help others
Yeah.
find their way.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this comes up a lot in parenting. It might
Mm.
come up in personal relationships where, um, I may have someone else's best at heart, but really it's being received as criticism because it's not my place to keep them safe or to be directing their life or whatever it is that
Yeah.
I may be doing because of my own fears.
Yes, yes. And so expanding our comfort zone, in this arena looks like having feeling like you have the inner let's say the inner centering and grounding to be able to respond to those kinds of comments in a way that feels good to you, but is also honestly addressing what's going on. Right. And so, um, if I go back to my example, right, if you're with somebody who is giving you advice, telling you what they think you should do, right, and it's somebody that you know well, and you're tired of it, and you don't want to put yourself in that position anymore, literally, what you want to be able to do is kindly but very respectfully, maybe touch their hand or their arm, and just say, I hear what you're saying. That might be your opinion, but you know what? I really need to figure this out on my own. And if it's okay with you, I'm just going to talk about it, but I don't want you to feel like you have to solve my problem. So,
Yes.
can you just hold on the solutions? Because it's really not helping right now.
Yes.
And if you can do that gently, kindly, but forthrightly, it's hard for me to imagine that somebody wouldn't honor that.
Yes. I mean, I agree with you completely there.
And it's uncomfortable. When you begin to do those things, this is a great example of like how we expand our comfort zone, right? Is it's going to be uncomfortable the first time you do that with somebody. And it might
Yes.
be every single time you do it because you don't want to have to do it. You want it to be different, right? But, I think it comes down to what are we all willing to do to get the results and the quality of relationship that we really want?
Yes. And putting ourselves on the edge of our comfort zone, right?
Mhm.
That area of discomfort is really where our growth happens, right?
Yeah.
So when you think about expanding your comfort zone, when you change your behaviors, when you change, I'll say the dynamics in a relationship, all of that is very expansive. And I think, I talk about our nervous system a lot, but it presents as a perceived threat. Oh, if I shake things up, if I tell them I don't appreciate, their input, however, tact,
Mhm.
whatever tact I use in it. Um, but there's that risk of, well, the relationship will change and, maybe they're going to be unhappy with me. But when you think about, you know, the opposite could be true. It could really expand the relationship. The relationship could get better
Yeah.
and more expansive
Yeah.
if you challenge that, grow your comfort zone in that relationship.
Yeah. And what's the alternative? I mean, I always feel like the alternative is then you are the one who suffers
Yes.
in being in a relationship and in a quality and an experience that you don't like, that doesn't feel good to you. You go away, you complain about it. You don't want it to be like that, but you're not really doing what it takes to change it, right? Or you just end the relationship and it's going to end anyway, right? If it doesn't work, if the relationship doesn't work and it can't be so that it's really a fruitful relationship for both people, it's kind of doomed to end anyway. And so the
Yeah.
goal is try at least, to get out of that comfort zone, that place that you've been again and again, try some new behavior, be willing to talk about it, be willing to struggle through those places that are hard. And if the other person wants the relationship too, they will do what you're doing, which is struggle through and try to make it work
Yeah.
better.
And what was coming up for me as you were talking is that what if we looked at our own suffering, right? Where are we uncomfortable? What doesn't feel good in our lives? And what if that's the clue, like as
It
to
is.
what needs to expand, right? Maybe
Yes.
we don't even know we're sitting in a comfort zone. But when I
Bingo.
think about, the things that I'm going to say, I've had a few activities in the past where I have deliberately, intentionally challenged myself in situations that I knew I'd be uncomfortable in
Yep.
because I wanted that growth, right? I mean, one of my examples was when I, volunteered to be in a live storytelling event and had to be on stage in front of an audience of several hundred people with the stage lights and all
Mm,
and tell a 10-minute story that I had written. I mean, it was vulnerable.
yeah.
I was a novice. I am not an onstage storyteller. And at the time I was really suffering from visibility made me extremely uncomfortable. And so I knew this is going to be difficult. It's going to be way outside my comfort zone, but I know it's going to be good for me.
Yeah.
Right. And so
Yeah.
again, how can you look at your life and go, where am I, where am I suffering?
Yeah.
Where am I feeling less than good? And
Yeah.
how can I turn those opportunities into expansive opportunities for myself?
Yeah, that's so great. I love that. Ooh, so much there. And I'm thinking about I want to kind of come back and just clarify the word suffering,
Yeah.
right? So this is like the internal suffering of sitting with yourself in a place that doesn't feel good and not doing anything about it.
Yes. That's a great explanation.
Yeah, because like being in an abusive relationship and having somebody else, feeling like a victim of somebody else, that's suffering, you have to figure out how to get out of that or end that. There's no other, I don't think any other way out of the suffering, right? Um, and we're talking, I think it's a little bit different than that, right? Nobody's
Absolutely.
inflicting anything on you. Like this is your life, you're living and you feel like you're suffering in a day-to-day way. Well, what is it that you can do here to begin to expand your comfort zone so that you don't feel like you're stuck in this place of suffering with whatever it is that's going on?
Yes, right. And I
Yeah.
think that's a good clarification. We're not talking about the type of suffering that maybe is inflicted upon you by others, right?
Yeah,
That might
right.
be a dangerous situation. That those are tricky to navigate. But when I think about other things that we we make choices and stay in situations, maybe it's a job is a great example,
Mhm.
right? I've been known to stay in a job too long, and I did it because my comfort zone. I was good at it. It paid well. I could say that I was loyal and I had a strong work ethic, which were the, attributes that I could tell myself that's why I was still there, right?
Mhm.
Rather than telling myself I was there because it was the easiest path forward, right?
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was in my comfort zone. And so leaving a situation that no longer serves you is difficult and it requires you to leave your comfort zone, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It,
Um, the whole idea of really thinking about when you are in that place, right, where you're feeling like you're in patterns of suffering or places, a condition that you just makes you feel unhappy, right? And in general, is not good for you in a lot of ways, is beginning to ask yourself, what can I do here? What are the possibilities? And even beginning with communication. I know you and I have talked about this so much on the show at return, we kind of cycle back to this idea of particularly if you're in relationship with somebody in patterns that don't feel good, that you are suffering in, is how can you begin to bring the issue to the table? How can you just begin to communicate about it without going into a place where you're feeling like, okay, we need a solution to this immediately, but just instead bring it up as a topic of conversation that doesn't feel good, and beginning to approach that in a way where you have to expand your communication on it. Think of your comfort zone expanding in tandem with your ability to communicate on the topic, you know?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many expansion opportunities when you
Yeah.
think about this, right?
I was even, what even came in, Laurel, as we were talking too, was the idea of suffering with physical pain.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know, and I had a period of time when I had a lot of physical pain related to a thyroid imbalance. And for me, it was always my pain level always got better when I went towards the pain instead of being trying to run away from it and resist the pain. And there's something to be said for, for just playing with that idea as well, right? I know that, if you're going to work with yourself holistically around physical pain and even emotional pain, there is an expansion around your comfort zone and your body, your mental body and your physical body to relax and make the space for the pain to be in and be in touch with a greater sense of yourself, so that you're not like narrowly focused on the pain itself. And
Yeah.
that's a skill that you can develop. Yeah.
It reminds me of a practice that I learned in the neuroscience of change class that I took, where um, expanding your body to make more room for the emotion you're carrying. And
Hmm.
when we think about, I often think our suffering often is caused by the emotions that we're carrying, right? Um, whether it's, emotional suffering or physical, right?
Yeah.
Like we put emotion in various places in our body.
Yeah.
And so it is the expansion of your being in depth, width, and length. And
Hmm.
it's a physical practice, that you do standing, and you really do envision and feel the spaciousness of your body. And what we learned is that, it just gives the emotion more room to navigate inside your body and maybe even dissipate, right?
Yes.
Because with more spaciousness, we're not clamping down on it. We're not holding on to it so tightly. And so it reminds me of the same thing you're talking about, right? And can you imagine if we could do that, you know, in our outer world as well? And so when I think about a relationship, maybe that
Mm.
no longer serves either party, but you're in it, a
Yeah.
job, right? Where neither the employer or the employee are their best selves in it, right? How can you look at the relationship or the situation and allow more expansiveness within it in order to let things settle out, work
Yeah.
itself out?
I love that. I love that. Uh, yeah, I think what's coming up for me is, and this is just because of, a lot of the work that I've done and how I see ourselves, right? Is if you think about our physical body, and then there's our energy actually moves out beyond our physical body, right? We have this aura or this energetic field around us where, so our self is actually more than just the body, but we don't necessarily think of it that way, right? And it's almost like, if we could think of our comfort zone that way, right? Like our comfort zone can be bigger than our physical body, and the way that we're seeing whatever it is right now. Think about it, making it just grow bigger to hold it and let it move around in a different way and take a different form and a different shape, whatever that problem or that issue is, and not necessarily have to solve it, but just begin to expand your comfort zone to hold it in a different way and let it move in a different way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and to expanding your comfort zone to hold you. So your comfort zone is holding you in a more spacious place.
Yeah, and supporting you,
Yeah.
if I go back to that for original example that I was talking about, right, is if you strengthen your ability to address an issue in your life and use words that you haven't used before, you are expanding your comfort zone and you're supporting yourself as well as the other person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful when I think about, I don't know, I do really enjoy the the word
Mm,
expansive, right?
I do too.
Like it just opens up so many possibilities in our life if we can really think more expansively, if we can act in a more expansive way. Yeah, or feel even as more expansiveness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, as we wrap up, I want to offer kind of a last little, I don't know, exercise or journaling prompt kind of for people. That's kind of, I think, encompasses a little bit the show, or wraps up the show, which is, if you feel like you're struggling or there's a place where you're suffering in your life, take some time to sit down and just imagine, right? If you were to expand your comfort zone, what would you have to do to relieve yourself of a little suffering, right? What are
Yeah.
the possibilities of what you could do to just expand your comfort zone in whatever that situation is? And get creative, get, don't think from your head, come down into your body, get in touch with that creative energy center down low, right? Near your belly or in your heart space, right? Get out of your head with it, try to solve it, and just see if you can creatively come up with some ideas of wow, if I was going to expand my comfort zone here so I wasn't suffering so much, what might that look like?
Yeah. And I have two more journaling
Good.
prompts that just came up. You know, what I'm hearing in your journal prompt is really looking at the how to shift that, how to grow the comfort zone, right? And getting into your body and listening to your body's wisdom on how to do that.
Yeah.
And even before we get to the how, I like to go to the why, right? And so when you think about this area in your life that might be uncomfortable, or you're feeling stuck, but it's your own patterns and comfort zone that have you in this place that you would like to maybe wiggle out of, um, really start to feel into your body of how does that feel to be where you currently are,
Yeah.
and envision, like feel into how would you rather feel? How do you want it to feel instead, right? Really getting into the body.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
and
great.
then the other one that really is maybe even the beginning point is I mentioned before, using, where you might feel stuck or contained or, you know, controlled or whatever word you want to use, whether it's, you know, your own doing or whether you feel stuck in a situation, my example at a job, right? Like, how can you look at what are the areas you feel stuck in? And is that a clue that you need to expand the comfort zone,
Mm,
right? Is it
yeah.
the reasons, and this is back into the head, but the reasons for your staying there, even though it's uncomfortable wherever you are, you know, are they fear-based or are they love-based, right? Going back to that initial question to
Yeah.
start to unravel, where you can grow your comfort zone.
Yeah. Yeah. And the always tried and true questions of what do you really want here and why do you want it is
Yes,
always a great, if nothing
absolutely.
else worked and what we just suggested, if you're suffering, what do you want and why do you want it? And
Why?
right,
Yeah.
right, 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 right. Keep asking.
Yes.
Keep
Yes.
asking. Don't give
Those
up.
are really good journal prompts.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
can we put in the show notes the episode where we talk about criticism?
Yes,
We'll put
yes.
that in the show notes because
Okay.
that's a great example that you used at the beginning of
Okay.
this episode. So thank you.
Okay, good. All right, Laurel, I think we're wrapped up for today.
Such a good conversation as always.
Yeah, and we'll be back for one of our last episodes of season 3 next week.
It might
Can't
be a
wait.
party, a celebration.
All right, let's do it. All
Okay.
right.
Thanks, listeners, for
See you
being with
then.
us.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.